In January of 1939, George Orwell published an essay titled Review of Power, in which he wrote, "It is quite possible that we are descending into an age in which 2 plus 2 will make 5, when the leader says so." Today, after 82 years of that prophecy, we can confidently say that we are in the era of 2 plus 2 equals 5. Everywhere you turn to, what you see is a lie. Politicians lie to us. Marketers lie to us. Schools lie to us. Even religious leaders lie to us. And of course, media lies to us too. I mean, everyone lies to us.
I did not have sexual relations with that woman, Miss Lewinsky.
So I think, what if we try and understand the nature of lies a little better? And that's why I am making this video. In this video, we're going to be talking about different forms of lies and how they affect us. Most importantly, I'll share with you the 3 strategies liars use to make you believe their lies. But first, let's talk about different forms of lies. Around 375 BC, Plato wrote his famous dialogue, The Republic, and in Book 3 of The Republic, he wrote about what is called the noble lie. According to Plato, noble lies are useful falsehoods that may not be harmful to the person who believes them. For example, the last time you were having a bad day and someone asked you, "How are you doing?" What was your response? If you're like most of us, you'll simply say, "I'm fine," even though you're not fine.
I'm sad. I feel fat. I'm stressed. I feel ugly. I'm so tired all the time.
In politics, a noble lie is a myth or untruth knowingly propagated by an elite to maintain social harmony or to advance an agenda. For example, when Franklin D. Roosevelt was contesting to be the U.S. president in 1932, even though his paralytic illness had started in 1921 and he had become paralyzed, he kept his disability a secret and hit the campaign trail while maintaining the pretense that he could walk. Look at his April of 1932's photo to see what I'm talking about. When Bill Clinton was accused of sleeping with Monica Lewinsky, he said,
I did not have sexual relations with that woman, Miss Lewinsky.
And after Donald Trump had lied 30,572 times, he kept on saying,
Believe me. 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 Believe me.
While noble lie is usually not harmful to the person who believes it, it can sometimes backfire and lead to great damage. An example of this is when U.S. weapon inspection visited Iraq between 1991 to 1998 to see if Saddam Hussein was still keeping weapons of mass destruction to appear powerful to America and the international community. Saddam Hussein lied that he was having some weapons of mass destruction. I'm sure you know how that ended.
I believe the individual is the answer to the challenges of healthcare. But we can't engage the individual in changing outcomes unless individuals have access to the information they need to do so.
This leads us to another type of lie. In his 1949 novel, titled 1984, George Orwell wrote, "In our time, political speech and writing are largely the defense of the indefensible. Thus, political language has to consist largely of euphemism, question-begging, and sheer cloudy vagueness. The great enemy of clear language is insincerity." Doublespeak is a language that deliberately obscures, disguises, distorts, or reverses the meaning of words. In other words, when we don't want to tell the truth yet, we don't want to be caught lying, we doublespeak.
I'm going to ask you again, because nobody believes you when you say you don't know how much money your family has got from the We Group. You've had a month to look into that. You knew you were going to testify here. Again, how much money total have your brother, mother, and spouse received from this organization? How much?
That information has been publicly shared, but I will highlight.
Well, then tell me what it is.
My mother
How much?
has
Just the dollar
worked,
figure.
throughout her life.
The dollar figure,
in
Prime Minister.
various ways, and is
How
proud
much?
of the work that she's done, and I'm proud of her.
How
as well.
much? I'm looking for a dollar figure.
We can get that number for you if you like. It's been out in the media.
It's been in the media, but you don't know it?
I don't have it in front of me. And quite
You don't
frankly,
know how much your family has received from this organization, which you tried to give $500 million. Really?
Can I answer, Mr. Polyev?
I'm waiting. You haven't done an answer so far. Let's make this the first one.
My mother has worked as an advocate.
The dollar figure,
professional,
Prime Minister.
Speaker for
How much?
many good organizations across the country.
Mr.
over many,
Prime
many
Minister.
Doublespeak generally can be categorized into two groups. Doublespeak that society accepts as normal, and doublespeak when we use to deceive others. An example of normal doublespeak is when a company says we're downsizing instead of we're firing people, or when you say I'm in between two jobs instead of saying I am unemployed. We can say negative cash flow instead of debt, or someone can say passes away instead of saying an individual is dead. Or when the American president farts in public, we can say this.
Camilla, Duchess of Cornwall, just can't stop talking about President Biden's faux pas in Glasgow at the climate conference last week. He apparently passed wind in front of her, with a palace source claiming his own emissions were long and loud and impossible to ignore.
While society accepts a lot of doublespeak that we consider harmless, there are much more harmful doublespeak we're exposed to every day, especially from politicians and business leaders.
Are you willing to change your business model in the interest of protecting individual privacy?
Congresswoman, have made and are continuing to make changes to reduce the amount of
No,
data.
are you willing to change your business model in the interest of protecting individual privacy?
Congresswoman, I'm not sure what that means.
Doublespeak is so popular among the political class that in 1974, the National Council of Teachers of English started giving an annual award to the best doublespeaker, an ironic tribute to public speakers who have perpetrated language that is grossly deceptive, evasive, euphemistic, confusing, or self-centered.
Did you really think that all of those deputies were off duty?
I'm very proud that last week the police chiefs endorsed me. I'm very proud that 40 sheriffs have endorsed me. I'm very proud of all the support from the law enforcement. We're at a 43-year low in our crime rate, so we invite them to our campaign events, and I'm very appreciative of the ones that came.
But did you think it was a problem to have on-duty law enforcement there?
I'm very appreciative of both their support and those that come to my events.
You didn't answer that question. Should there be discipline?
That leads us to another form of lie that is even crazier. In the year 1813, Lord Byron wrote a letter in which he confessed, "I know that 2 and 2 makes 4, and shall be glad to prove it too, if I could. Though I must say, if by any sort of process I could convert 2 and 2 into 5, it would give me much greater pleasure." In 1895, a French writer and journalist, Alphonso Allais, published a book titled 2 and 2 makes 5. Alphonso Allais' book is a collection of absurdist short stories, but the anti-intellectual slogan soon became a possibility many world leaders considered. In 1920, a Russian poet named Vadim Gabrovich wrote a manifesto titled 2 times 2 equals 5, and while writing his secret diary in the year 1984, the protagonist, Winston Smith, pondered if the inner party might declare that 2 plus 2 equals 5 is in fact a fact. Smith further pondered whether or not belief in such a consensus reality makes the lie true. In his book, Back on the Spanish War, George Orwell wrote, "Nazi theory indeed specifically denies that such a thing as the truth exists. The implied objective of this line of thought is a nightmare world in which the leader or some ruling clique controls not only the future but the past. If the leader says of such and such event it never happened, well, it never happened."
Now that the sheep are gone, if you haven't seen Plandemic...
I think this was all planned by the Democratic Party.
Do you believe the numbers and the news that's being reported by the mainstream news media?
You've been brainwashed.
You cannot escape God, not even with the mask or 6 feet.
He's blowing the lid off the COVID scandal, the scamdemic.
There's not enough to make this a pandemic. This is a planned-demic.
Today, you can make people believe anything. I mean, just about anything. As long as you have a little charisma, you're a spiritual leader or even a political leader. For example, look at this picture. What you're seeing are corpses of 900 members of a San Francisco-based religious group called the People's Temple, who died after drinking poison at the urging of their spiritual leader. Yes, you heard me correctly. On November 18, 1978, after killing the U.S. Congressman Leo Ryan, Reverend Jim Jones asked his followers to drink poison. But guess what? He himself did not drink the poison.
Is that a Q?
Yeah.
Are you a Q supporter?
Certainly.
Wasn't Q's whole thing that Trump would be reinstated as president?
He's never left. There's no doubt in my mind, 150,000%.
That he's still president of the United States? Really? Does he still hold the powers of the presidency?
Well, he's been flying around the world on Air Force One. It says something.
I thought Joe Biden's technically on Air Force One. No. So they're faking it?
Yeah, it's not even a presidency.
Who is running the government right now?
President Trump.
He's running the government.
And the military.
And he's running the military. So we should blame him for what happened in Afghanistan?
No.
But it's still his fault.
It's way beyond my
understanding.
While QAnon and Reverend Jim Jones's People Temple are extreme examples of 2 + 2 = 5, in between those extremes are millions of ways we're being lied to, and that brings me to another form of lie. In 1925, Adolf Hitler published his book Mein Kampf, and it was in this book Hitler coined the term the big lie. The big lie is a gross distortion or misrepresentation of the truth, used especially as a propaganda technique. Big lie describes the use of a lie so colossal that no one would believe that someone could have the impudence to distort the truth so infamously. In chapter 10 of Mein Kampf, Hitler wrote, "And thus, in the primitive simplicity of their minds, they more readily fall victims to the big lie than the small lie." In other words, if the lie is big enough, we start wondering if it's not true after all. While talking about big lie, the Cold War historian Zachary Jonathan noted, "To sell this narrative, all effective propaganda must be limited to a very few points and must harp on these in slogans until the last member of the public understands." In other words, if you wish to tell a big lie, you have to make it simple and repeat it every day. In an article dated 12 January 1914, a German Nazi politician named Joseph Goebbels put forth a big lie theory in these words: "The essential English leadership secret does not depend on particular intelligence. Rather, it depends on a remarkably stupid thick-headedness. The English follow the principle that when one lies, one should lie big and stick to it." But why do we believe lies? So far in this video, I've talked about the noble lie, doublespeak, 2 + 2 = 5, and the big lie. There are so many other ways we tell ourselves lies. For example, we have a phenomenon called consensus reality, which means the agreed upon concepts of reality which a group of people or a culture believes are real, or treat as real, regardless of whether they are scientifically proven to be true or not. Then we have credibility gap, memory hole, alternative facts, truthiness, groupthink, and many other ways we subtly deceive and lie to ourselves. From political leaders to business executives to individuals, we lie to each other every day. To make lies believable, however, deceptive people often use 3 simple strategies. 1. Illusory truth effect. 2. Familiarity. And 3. Crowd psychology.
What is your name?
It's Roshandy Antonisha Vision Keeson Simon Drew Shalinda Shakane Rankwa.
Hey, Roshandy Antonisha Mi Kwanisha Mi Sigmakwandi Mashumanika Misibuji Kashima Williams, it's dinner!
The illusory truth effect is the tendency to believe false information to be correct after repeated exposure. This phenomenon was first identified in a 1977 study at Villanova University and Temple University. In the study, participants were asked to rate a series of trivia statements as true or false. On 3 occasions, Lynn Hasher, David Goldstein, and Thomas Topino presented the same group of college students with lists of 60 plausible statements, some of them true and some of them false. The second list was distributed 2 weeks after the first, and the third 2 weeks after that. 20 statements appeared on all three lists, while the other 40 items on each list were unique to that list. Participants were asked how confident they were of the truth or falsity of the statements, which concerned matters about which they were unlikely to know anything of. For example, the first Air Force base was launched in the New Mexico, or basketball became an Olympic discipline in 1925. Specifically, the participants were asked to grade the belief in the truth of each statement on a scale of 1 to 7. While the participants' confidence in the truth of the non-repeated statements remained steady, their confidence in the truth of the repeated statements increased from the first to the second and third sessions, with an average score for those items rising from 4.2 to 4.6 to 4.7. The conclusion made by the researchers was that repeating a statement makes it more likely to appear factual. A 1989 study by Hal R. Akes, Catherine Hatchett, and Larry Bohem replicated the original study, with similar results showing that exposure to false information changes the perceived truthfulness and plausibility of that information. Now, it doesn't matter how bad a product is. Marketers know if they can repeat their message in front of you long enough, you will be moved from skepticism to loyalty. Politicians craft simple slogans according to the big lie theory, then repeat them every time.
Because democracy isn't a spectator sport. America isn't about, yes, he will. It's about, yes, we can.
Before they lie to us, they promise they'll never lie.
One thing I can promise you this: I will always tell you the truth.
But they'll lie.
There was nothing marked classified on my emails, either sent or received.
However, if they can repeat anything long enough, we will believe them.
Believe me. 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 Believe me.
Illusory truth effect doesn't just work for politicians or business leaders. Just about anybody can make you believe a lie, if only they can repeat such lie long enough. What is even scarier about the illusory truth effect is that the effect goes past your intelligence. According to the American Psychological Association, the illusory truth effect works on both the ignorant and intelligent members of the society. This is because the illusory truth effect is subtle and works on our subconscious mind. The only way not to start believing what you once considered a lie is to avoid constant exposure to such things. For example, it doesn't matter how much you believe in God. If you wake up every day to listen to what atheists have to say about atheism, then you'll soon start wondering if there's God after all. Another way deceptive people get us to believe their lies is by using the familiarity principle. Generally, we tend to believe people who are close to us, our friends, our family members, our lovers, or our colleagues. We tend to think that these people can't lie to us, and that exactly is why they lie to us.
Let's see how far he keeps up with this push-up challenge.
The falsehood and deceptions of the people around you is to pay attention to how they treat other people. So, for example, people who lie to other people in front of you will lie to you one day. Generally, people who betrayed someone in front of you will one day betray you. The first debate in crowd psychology began in Rome at the First International Congress of Criminal Anthropology, on 16th November 1885. In 1895, a leading French polymath, Gustave Le Bon, published his book, The Crowd, a study of the popular mind. In The Crowd, Le Bon made a list of the characteristics of a crowd as impulsiveness, irritability, incapacity to reason, the absence of judgment of the critical spirit, the exaggeration of sentiments. Le Bon also wrote, an individual immersed for some length of time in a crowd soon finds himself either in consequence of magnetic influence given out by the crowd or some form of other cause of which we are ignorant, in a special state which much resembles the state of fascination in which the hypnotized individual finds himself in the hands of the hypnotizer. Studies about crowds seem to suggest that when we belong to a group and become devoted to such a group, we tend to lose our individual personalities. Le Bon called this submergence, or the disappearance of a conscious personality and the appearance of an unconscious personality. Because crowd, group, or tribe tend to make people lose their individuality and instead become possessed by a new spirit, the spirit of the crowd, it then becomes extremely easy for the leaders of such crowd to tell his followers anything, truth or lie. It doesn't matter.
You know, people say, oh, Trump's that's a cult, blah, blah, blah. But I feel like cult is such a negative word. We are not a cult. We are a group of Americans that love our country and want it back.
Are there any old hits or things you hope he goes back to?
Oh gosh, I feel like whatever he spews out of his mouth, I just love it. I just love...
You know, it doesn't matter what he says?
Yeah,
we're gonna love it. We're gonna love being here. We're gonna love hearing what he has to say.
The leader can also get his crowd to do just about anything.
Close your mouth. Okay, I see food outside. Look at that. Look at that food. Be quiet. Be quiet. Okay, go and eat. Go and eat. Go eat outside. Go, quickly. Eat quickly. Eat quickly. Today, no time, no time. You eat quickly. Limited time today.
Two days after Hitler was installed as Chancellor of Germany in 1933, Dietrich Bonhoeffer delivered a radio address in which he attacked Hitler and warned Germany against slipping into an idolatrous cult of the leader. He was cut off the air in the middle of a sentence, but he would never stop criticizing Hitler. After years of trying to change people's minds, Bonhoeffer came home one evening and his father had to tell him that two men were waiting in his room to take him away. In prison, Bonhoeffer began to reflect on how his country of poets and thinkers had turned into a collective of cowards, crooks, and criminals. Eventually, he concluded that the root of the problem was not malice, but stupidity. In his famous letters from prison, Bonhoeffer argued that stupidity is a more dangerous enemy of good than malice, because while one may protest against evil, it can be exposed and prevented by the use of force. Against stupidity, we are defenseless. And what stupidity is Bonhoeffer referring to here? The stupidity of the crowd. Germans are among some of the most intelligent people in the world. Individually, they would never have done what they did between 1933 and 1945. However, falling in love with a charismatic leader who pulled them under the spirit of the crowd, they lost their individuality. They became susceptible to lies. Then this guy could get them to do just anything. In his 1985 book, Groundwork of the Metaphysic of Morals, the German philosopher Immanuel Kant wrote about what he called autonomy. According to Kant, autonomy along with rationality are the two criteria for a meaningful life. Kant would consider a life lived without autonomy and rationality not worth living. It will be a life of value equal to that of a plant or insect. In the year 1874, Friedrich Nietzsche published Kufenher as Educator, and in this book, He wrote, "No one can build you the bridge on which you, and only you, must cross the river of life. There may be countless trails and bridges and demigods who would gladly carry you across, but only at the price of pawning and foregoing yourself. There is one path in the world that none can walk but you. Where does it lead? Don't ask. Walk. The only way to protect yourself from crowd manipulation is to be suspicious of your tribe. As humans, we are people of tribes. None of us can be completely free from identifying with a group. However, you can protect yourself from being a victim of group manipulation by removing yourself from the group every now and then, and look at your tribe from the outsider's perspective." In conclusion, we've discussed the different ways manipulative people lie to us. We talked about the noble lie, doublespeak, the big lie, 2 + 2 = 5. I then shared with you 3 strategies most liars depend on to deceive us. 1. The illusory truth effect, by repeating a lie so many times. 2. Familiarity. And 3. Crowd psychology. Well, thanks for watching. I am Steve Courage.